Okay, so I was the nerd who said, is LED lights and projection and PowerPoint and all that stuff, is that in the Bible? So I did what all Christians do, and I went to Google, right? And unfortunately, nothing came up. Like nowhere was projection or LED video walls but I did find smoke. So if your pastor's like, I don't like the use of smoke, that is actually in the Bible. In Revelation, it says, and the sanctuary was filled with smoke from the glory of God and his power. Right there, you've got enough. You're like, oh, I'm out of here, right? So haze is a biblical concept, and that God actually manifests himself through haze. No, I'm just kidding. But not really. It's in the Bible. You can tell your pastor that. But so here's what happened. That wasn't what I found. But I didn't find anything. And I didn't know what to do. So I basically just started in Genesis, and I worked my way through. And I was just praying the entire time, God, would you open my eyes to see something I've never seen before? Would you help me see how creativity is something from you? And so I went through the creation process, and I'm like, well, that's too cliche. Like, that would be too easy if that's it. Although I do believe the fact that God started with creating means that there's something that's coming, right? It was a foreshadowing. So anyway, I got into Exodus, and I got into the moment when God goes up on the mountain. When Moses goes up on the mountain to meet with God, and he comes down radiating, right? He was visually changed. Now, that wasn't what I took away, because that was just something I had always known. Here's what's crazy. By the way, this is just a freebie. When you have an encounter with God, you visually look different, probably, to people. And so that was just kind of a fun little reminder to me. Anyway, he comes off the mountain, and what does Moses share with his people? Do you remember? What's the big thing we all talk about in the church? The 10 Commandments. So starting in chapter 32, all the way through the end of the book, it's basically Moses describing to the people what it is that he and God talked about. And what's amazing is when I just said, what did they talk about? You guys all just said the 10 Commandments. But what we don't realize is that 72% of what he shares, and I'm a numbers guy, and we're going to talk about numbers all day, okay? But 72% of what he shares is actually about the visual look and feel of worship. Now, most of us look at that, and it seems like a really boring area because he starts talking about the tabernacle and the tent and the covering and the altar and all these different things, right? But check this out. When he goes on, he says, and Moses is saying basically, this is in response to what Moses had said, but then the whole Israelite community withdrew from their presence. Every skilled woman spun her hands and brought what she had spun, blue, purple, scarlet yarn, fine linen. It goes on to talk about acacia wood. It goes on to talk about all the beautiful linens and all the rich colors that were to be put and all the material that was to be used, right? And I came to this incredible conclusion that God cares a great deal about the visual of his worship. And this whole section, I encourage you to go read it, all of that second half of Exodus, chapter 30 on. Go take a look at it. It will open your mind to go, holy cow, this is detailed. This isn't just we should have smoke, like Revelation says. It's not we should just potentially consider creativity. It is like, first of all, 72%. Holy cow, right? And what's funny is we as the church remember the 10 Commandments, right? We remember the law. We don't remember the creativity that came out of that, even though he talked way more about creativity. And then I found this gem, and this is where I want us to start today. In Exodus 35, then Moses said to the Israelites, see, the Lord has chosen. Now, listen, hold on, time out. I'm not I didn't go to seminary. How many of you went to seminary? Senior pastor, you're going to have to give me some grace here because whenever I get to a name I don't know, I just go ahead and change it to something I do know. So we're just going to do this for the time being. It's going to make a lot more sense here. Is this legal? I don't know if this is legal. Sorry. So the Lord has chosen Bob, son of Uri, son of Hur, the tribe of Judah, yada, yada, and filled him with the Spirit of God. Hold on. The first thing he did was fill him with the Spirit of God. I didn't notice that until about a year ago. I have taught on this verse so many times, and only until about a year ago did I notice that was the first thing God filled him with. Amazing. But he also filled him with wisdom, understanding, knowledge, and all kinds of skills to make artistic designs, for work in gold, silver, bronze, to cut stones, to work in wood, and to engage in all kinds of artistic crafts. Holy cow. And so he has given both Bob and, here's another name I don't know, so let's just make him Larry, son of, we don't need to know his name, so we're just going to skip it, of the tribe of Dan, the ability to teach others. Okay, so he's filled with the Holy Spirit. He's given all this wisdom, insight, artistic gifts, right? The ability to go make things out of amazing things, right? And we're talking about an artist. We're talking about creativity here. We're talking about making things happen. But notice he was given the ability to teach others. And so what I want us to know this morning or this afternoon as we start this, you're Bob and you're Larry. He teaches you something. He enlightens something. And what I want you to know is it's not just for you. So don't keep it in. I hope you go back, and I hope you take this to your teams. I hope you take some of this stuff back to your own volunteer base. I hope you share it with other churches. Because the reality was, when he was filled with the Holy Spirit and given all these artistic works, he was given the ability to teach others.